Crusader squads of the Black Templars. We kneel, all of us, in utter unison. We are one. Hundreds of ceramite-covered knees striking the ground at the same time. The thunderous echo rebounds across the inner sanctum, our cathedral in the void. Its highest points barely visible without our helms. Its huge viewports allow us to witness eternity while we receive the sermons. We hear the litanies and the catechisms. We are the anointed, are the pure. We are the sword of the Emperor himself. We are gathered for the muster, the final preparation before we strike. Recently our crusade was met by transports. Some hailed from the fortress monasteries in this region, replenishing our ranks, but they were untested, untried. Thus did the initiates without neophytes walk the ranks, perusing the candidates. And all candidates were chosen. All silently tapped on the shoulder by a known warrior. The one action signaling that they had been accepted, that the next phase of their time amongst the Black Templars had already begun. The initiates were full battle brothers, and would train their neophytes in all that it meant to be a Black Templar in the service of the God Emperor of mankind. They had been trained already, of course, had been put through the trials and challenges that would break any lesser man. At the fortress monasteries they had been honed, drilled, groomed, drilled again, mostly with live ammunition, culling the weak from the strong, so they were not babes in arms. In any other era of humanity, in any other circumstances, they would already be the greatest warriors that humanity had ever produced. Hardened killers, paragons of martial prowess. But this was not some halcyon era long gone. This was the age of the Imperium, and the challenges and trials, the horrors that they would face were far beyond anything humanity could once have dreamed in its worst nightmares. So, despite their training, their equipment, their gene seed already elevating them to something so much more than human. Despite the fact that they were already Adeptus Astartes, the Emperor's own angels of death. To us, they were still raw recruits. Still snot-nosed dreamers who had barely the first clue of what would be expected of them. They were swords, but they were dull. It would be up to the initiates and the example of the sword brethren to sharpen them, to give them an edge that would not only allow them to live, to survive, not only allow them to serve their emperor, but also to bring low things that had never been faced in eras prior. For we, the Black Templars, are the sword of the Emperor. We are his wrath. And we swear our oaths so that we will never forgive their transgressions against our race, and never, ever forget them. The enemies of the Imperium, the traitor, the mutant, the heretic, the witch. We are the scourge. We are the firebrand. We are the rake that clears away the vileness of the galaxy. His galaxy. For unlike many of our cousins, our kind, the Space Marines, we do not skulk in our fiefdoms, desperately clinging on to control, ever reacting and never acting. We do not protect a guttering light, as some of our melancholic kin believe they do. No, for we are the Black Templars. We are the sons of Sigismund and Dawn, grandchildren to the Emperor himself. His righteousness runs through our veins. It is our duty, our reason to exist, to be the eternal crusade. Thus do we bring the light to the darkest corners of the galaxy. His galaxy. We are the tsunami that washes away the filth that would contaminate our Imperium, our worlds, our race. We, the Black Templars, have never ceased in our eternal war, our eternal crusade, for over 10,000 years. Thus do we live our lives on our mighty vessels as we ply the stars, not reacting, but acting. We hunt down the foes of the Emperor, annihilate them from the least to the last, no matter where they be, no matter where they hide. Our words, no pity, no remorse, no fear. They are all we need. Our oaths and our devotion to the God Emperor of mankind. When the chaplains end their litanies, our marshal arises first and takes his place at our head. As he turns and addresses us, 2 inquisitors with their entourages enter the stage and stand alongside him. One I recognize as Saulot Brachus, a painfully short and dainty man, but with a steel in his gaze and bearing that more than make up for his diminutive stature. His entourage surround him like a clutch of chickens, all clucking around him whenever he is near the front. I have witnessed it. The Ogrin seems especially ludicrous in his presence, sloth by name, but certainly not by nature. The armoured Goliath is touted to be the equivalent of a marine. I doubt that, but hope it never has to be tested. For Brachus may well regret making that claim. We have worked with him extensively before, Ordo Hereticus. He has sniffed out many a nest of witches and heretics for us to purge, hence do we know there is foulness afoot. The other inquisitor hails from the Ordo Malleus, the demon hunters, and so it seems we're in for a proper fight at last. Killing Xenos is one thing, as they are vile in the eyes of the Emperor, and should be stricken from his realm without mercy. But it always fills us with greater zeal when we know that our targets are to be the true enemies of the Imperium. The witches and their never-born allies are our reason to exist, the reason for the eternal crusade. And I am proven right, as our marshal outlines our targets, our priorities, our goals, and our foes. Thus were we to face not only witches, but the soulless, the never-born as well. Demons. Good. It will be a battle worthy of our mettle, worthy of our attention. When finished, he has outlined 5 main objectives, where our Crusader squads will needs be to hold the line and push the foe back. The specialist units are solid, but the battle line squads are not, as with other forces. Our brothers have pretty formations and numbers and ordered lists of battle, you see. But they are armies. We are more than this. We are a crusade. Thus do we act as such. We allow the men to go as their calling and their passion follow, to fight alongside those that they choose on the field of battle they wish. All will be under the control of the chain. All will do as instructed by the marshal. But in this moment, in this one instance before the battle is joined, our structures become static. We form our own units, our own crusade squads. 5 different sword brethren stand, one by one, claiming that they will lead the assault on one of the strategic objectives. They stand and raise their swords high, moving into a separate area of the cathedral, and proclaim their objective and honor as they stride. And we initiates, with our neophytes in tow, our squires, we congregate at one banner or another. The zeal in our hearts burns away jealousy, fickleness, or antipathy for those around us. This is no popularity contest as it would be in some other chapters. We choose to fight at the side of those who have the same goals, the same drive, the same style. It is no negative reflection on those bands we do not join. We are and always will be one. One chapter, one crusade, one purpose. And within 2 minutes, there we stand in our 5 squads. Some are larger than others, but this is due to the magnitude of the tasks given, and also the complexity. My neophyte and I stand with one of the larger squads, but it is utterly logical. We are to arrive by drop pod landing, and 2 squads must create the bridgehead, must clear the landing ground for the others. Usually, we would not need perform this action, the entire force coming down as one, in a lightning raid of fire and fury. But we have the Inquisitors to protect, and no normal mortal, power armor or no, could survive the impact of a drop pod landing. Thus we must clear a landing zone for these illuminous guests on our battlefield. It will be a simple task, but the probability of casualties is high. The bridgehead or forlorn hope is always thus. As it is simple, as it is of high import, as it will be a desperate and instant struggle for life and victory, it is where most initiates take their very green neophytes. They will have to fight from the second the doors open. Ha! A true baptism in fire. Thus are our squads the larger, breaching the dictates of the Codex Astartes with impunity. Heh, we are not ultramarines and will never pretend to be so. We will arrive in multiple drop pods per squad, as they only house 10 marines. And so, without fuss, confusion, bickering, dickering, or drama, the squads are decided. And within 2 minutes, our structure for the battle is set. The next hours pass without incident or interest. Methodically, ritualistically, we march to our departure deck and gird ourselves for war. As we do, we note the one Marine chosen to be his representative, his sword, his will made manifest, the greatest of honors. And then we launch. Story to be continued in the video for The Emperor's Champion. Welcome, gentle listener. I'm Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we are to continue our journey into the squads of the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. Alas, the squad type or structure is only available to those most ardent and fanatical of the Emperor's Marines, the chapter whose name alone will force brigand, mutant, heretic, witch, or traitor to turn tail and flee. To hide in the darkest corner they can find and huddle, shaking, while clamping their eyes closed and holding their breath in the hopes that the terror will pass them by. For as I have said before, there are none who can liquefy the bowels of the enemies of the Imperium, as can the legendary Black Templars. If you have not seen my entry on this illustrious chapter, then please feel free to find it in the description. An older video, but I'm told it still checks out. And it is this second founding chapter, the Black Templars, who utterly and flagrantly ignore the tenets of Reboot Guilliman's Codex Astartes. Thus it is that they do not have set structures, companies, and delineated and defined squads. The entire chapter is built on will, zeal, and a burning fire to incinerate the enemies of the Emperor. As they say, they do not wear the symbol of the Emperor, the Aquila, because they are the symbol of the Emperor. With such forces of nature numbering near every member of the chapter, they would, from the outside, seem to be a bull without direction, a blade that is as dangerous to its allies as it is to its foes. But this is simply not the case. For the Black Templars, there is no need for strict regulated armies and formations where there is zeal enough. For otherwise a marine, can be placed in a position he does not wish, to perform a specialization that does not make his heart sing with the love of bringing death to the Imperium's foes. And that would decrease his elan, his agency, his faith, his zeal, by hampering the way in which he expresses it. It would diminish the burning fire of his wrath. As the old axiom goes, a volunteer is worth 10 conscripts. And so it is that the Crusader squad is the standard squad of the line for the battle companies of the Black Templars. It is the equivalent of the tactical intercessor squad of near all other chapters bar the Space Wolves, the Volca Fenrica. But we shall get on to them soon. As I hope I have made clear in a more easily consumable format in my little tale at the start of this entry, the Black Templars work on a system of volunteers choosing to take positions, choosing to take up a micro-quest or oath of moment, in the form of the tactical objectives they will take and the enemies they will attempt to slay, the segments of the battlefield they will conquer, dominate, and clear. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, a Crusader squad is a standard tactical organization employed by the Black Templars chapter of Space Marines. The majority of Black Templars battle brothers, known within the chapter as initiates, are organized into Crusader squads, which form the backbone of any strike force unleashed by the chapter. Many Crusader squads have the honor of being led to battle by one of the chapter's sword brethren, veterans whose deeds and example inspires the initiates to ever greater acts of courage. Crusader squads are armed primarily with the Holy Bolter, though given the Black Templars' preference for fighting their foes face-to-face in melee, many choose to carry chainswords and other weapons more suited to the cut and thrust of close combat, epitomizing the Black Templars' righteous zeal and their drive to defeat their foes in battle. Before a Black Templar recruit marches to war as an initiate, he must first prove his mettle as a neophyte. Unlike other Space Marine chapters, The Black Templars have no dedicated scout company in which its aspirants are trained. Instead, the Black Templars recruits train within a chapter keep, and once they are deemed ready by the keep's castellan, are transported to one of the Black Templars' fleets. Here the neophytes are put through even more grueling trials as the chapter's initiates test their strength, martial skill, and faith to the limits. Should a survivor of these trials impress one of the assembled battle brothers, an initiate may take it upon himself to personally mentor the neophyte in the art of war. From that point on, the initiate takes sole responsibility for his pupil's training and conduct. He swears an oath to prepare the neophyte for his entry into the brotherhood that is the chapter, teaching him of its history and guiding him through its holy rites of worship to the emperor. In return, the neophyte pledges obedience to his master and vows never to bring dishonor to his name. Neophytes also act as servants to their mentors, waiting on them at the great banquets and seeing to their day-to-day requirements. On the battlefield, an initiate often stands beside his young pupil, teaching him through bloody examples the way of bolter and blade. In this way, the neophyte learns firsthand the methods of waging war and of destroying the emperor's enemies. It is the initiate's prerogative to say when his apprentice's training is complete. Once he has proven his valor and skill, a Black Templar's neophyte submits to the chapter's chaplains to undergo the final trials of purity before, in a ceremony of great reverence, he is elevated to the ranks of a full battle brother of initiate status and honored with a suit of power armor. He is now truly a Black Templar, possessed of great power, and sworn to use it in the Emperor's service unto death. End quote. Thus we see why the Black Templars are not the same as other chapters, not by a long chalk. For on some levels they are built more on a feudal basis, where a knight takes his squire or squires into battle with him, to steel them, but also to train them, to forge them in the fires of battle. And so it is that, as noted before, the Black Templars have the most eye-watering casualty rate of near all Space Marine chapters. Yet their eternal crusade, forever pushing forward, forever building new fortress monasteries for further recruitment, their perpetual and almost inexhaustible supply of fresh neophytes would put even Perturabo to shame. Almost ironic that the Black Templars use tactics and supply chains more akin to those of their Primarch's worst enemy, the Lord of Medrengard and Primarch of the Iron Warriors. But I wouldn't say that too loudly near one of these paragons of piety. For to many, the Black Templars exemplify the mythology, the fable, of the questing knight more than any other in the grim darkness of the far future. They are akin to paladins in their abilities and positions within the armies of the Emperor, immune to many of the powers of chaos and the warp simply by dint of the power of their faith alone. Always preferring honourable combat in close quarters, no matter the size, ability or power of the enemy they face. It is the image of the paladin standing against dragons, demons, liches and liars alike that strikes so hard into the subconscious of the fans of this mighty chapter. For with armour, faith and sword in hand, they will always not only stand, as many of their brethren would of course, but they will always go on the attack. And yea, they shall slay the unrighteous, the unclean, the corrupt, the vile, the mutant, the traitor, the heretic, and the witch. None can stay the hand of the Black Templar's eternal crusade, nor stand in its way and expect to live. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction to Crusader squads of the Black Templars. If so, then please do consider liking and subscribing. And if you do, then do hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. I would also like to extend the very warmest hopes that you will all enjoy a healthy, happy and prosperous 2021. Now, especially at the moment, in this grimmest and darkest of all of the months of the year, no matter what you do today, please do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.